All right, all right. Do the Matthew McConaughey here. So we're gonna get started here. Yesterday we went over like the A2P process where to send text messages. So you got a clip of that and what that is. Next we're actually working our way up to actually starting a campaign for you guys so we can show you how to do that. So now we want to go ahead and upload contacts here, and we're gonna go over step by step on what you would do to go ahead and upload contacts into Air's UI to make the calls. For future videos, we're gonna actually show you how to where you can actually make calls out of your CRM. Specifically, Go High Levels, where we're going to demonstrate that on, but that's for a much later video. But for now, we're going to show you how you can utilize Air's UI to your advantage and do it all within inside Air's UI. So let's get started. Paul, now do you want to kind of go over you have a better understanding of how to explain the difference between contacts and lists here. Do you want to go over that real quick before we jump in and show them how to
Yeah,
do
I
this?
mean, yeah, it's fairly straightforward from that standpoint. So your contacts are just going to be all the contacts that are available within either your Air AI. So any contacts that you ever want to contact, you put them on that list. That's your contact list. And your lists are going to be you actually separating your contacts into segmented lists that you actually want to run campaigns on. So you say you're doing like a localized, say you want to you're say you have a list of 5,000 contacts, you want to whittle it down to just the contacts that are in like a certain city, let's say Chicago or New York or something. Well, you would separate that kind of off the Air platform and differentiate it, and then you would just upload that list of only those states that are in New York, right? And so that would just be an example of how what you would do. Or say you're in a certain demographic, say your list came from Facebook and you're doing some Facebook marketing or something like that, and you have a lookalike audience or whatever that you want to contact, you just take that particular list if it's to a particular campaign. So it's just a way that you can differentiate what lists are there. But the context is just all general.
Yeah, and I put put some extra different context for you. So like to his point, if you're going after, let's say, let's say you're a B2B organization and you're going after you have different areas like Chicago or Tampa or Orlando, and let's say those are the three areas, Chicago, Tampa, Orlando. You may have three agents that are offering the same offer, but they're speaking to your audience. Say, hey, we're just reaching out to XYZ business in the Chicago area or XYZ business in the Orlando area. It makes it a little bit more personable. So that's where you would create multiple lists for Chicago, Orlando, Tampa, for example. There. Another one is like you said, Facebook. Hey, we're reaching out because you expressed some interest in XYZ offer on one of our Facebook ads. Do you recall that? Yes, or Google or whatever the ad's coming from. So to get kind of give you a conceptual idea, I mean, we're actually inside of our account right now. So you can see here we have a ton of agents as you can see there. So to give you a conceptual idea of how many agents you can actually create inside of Air, and that's where the purpose of having lists so you can have the agent refer to that contact list specifically, so you know which list to what agent to basically match them up to the proper agent basically there. So that's kind of, I don't know if I explained it a little bit there for you,
Mm-hmm.
but let's actually go in now
Yeah,
and show you how
let's
to
make
get a
the
list. So
yeah, let's import these contacts.
yep.
So you would go to any you would export your list from any CRM that you're working out of or wherever your list is, whether that is Google, whether that's Facebook, or anywhere where your list is for your contacts. You take that list.
Yep.
And
And
so we have one already. Go ahead.
yeah, you take it out of Go High Level, Salesforce. If you're exporting your stuff on Google, or if you don't have a CRM and you got Facebook storing all your leads, you can then extract that as a CSV. But then you want to go ahead and reformat the CSV properly. So we're gonna actually show you how to do that. So we're gonna upload one right now. So import, and the best way to do it is go to Google Sheets. So that's what we're using right now to do that. So yeah, I could drag and drop it here, but it's all right. It's right here. Import. Okay. So you could go here to kind of expand it and then double click there. So it makes it perfectly even so you can see all the data that's inside there if you're kind of like me and you need to see that. So, but how you would reformat if you have like a ton of information here, you may not need all the information, so you could delete it from here so that way it doesn't upload into Air and kind of confuse it. But another thing you want to do is if there's a field that you want to keep, like contact ID, first name, business name, last activity, where there are two words in one section there, you want to instead of having a space, you want to put an underscore. That's correct, right, Paul?
Yeah,
You're my developer here, so I'll make sure I'm doing
yeah.
everything correctly.
Essentially, any programming language, and the reason why we're doing this is we're gonna Air allows you to reference these headers and this data dynamically within Air for the agent to read. And so we want to make sure that the Air agent can read these and they can reference these headers because we can actually use them as references within our script. And so that's why we want to do this part. It's actually really important and key so that you can use that if you were using the advanced or um, anywhere where you can use the variables. You can do it in standard as well. So it works both ways. So
And
now this is how you get more dynamic data in there. Go ahead.
and to your point too, so like you can actually program a script to put like a squiggly line, which is kind of looks like this, and then you would have say business name
Yeah. Yep.
inside the script, just like that, right? So
Correct.
the
That,
agent could say ABC solutions, but you got to kind of be careful because it is a scripted that they're reading off of. So your agent's gonna might try to pronounce ABC and not actually say ABC. Does that make sense?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's like they're gonna say co here where they you may want to say company. So if you have odd ones like there was an odd one that there like I mean there's a couple of odd ones like AI like inside the script um Air actually pronounces AI as AYE. Uh I think or something like that to kind of make so the agent knows how to can say it properly rather than trying to pronounce AI as one word. So it can be kind of awkward like that. But the purpose of why we want the business name in there for us is when it books an appointment, it's referencing that business name so we can easily reference that inside of our CRM to when it books to our calendar. So um
Yeah.
so there we go. That's basically how we would format it, the underscores for each space. So the inside sheets here, you basically go to file.
Wait, hold on a second. You got to take out that business name.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. There
yeah.
you go.
Go to file, download, and then CSV. All right. So now we're gonna go to air, and this is where you kind of start fresh when you start up.
Hmm.
Um, and then this is where your lists are. So you're gonna get your first list automatically in there. If you want to create multiple lists, as we mentioned, like for those cities or types of lead generation, whatnot, you
Make it just make it a list and just call it New York list, just
okay.
so you can see what that looks like. See, this is like the New York list, right? There's already by default, they Air already makes a list called first list. We can upload these contacts into New York just because we can.
Right.
So,
So, and I'm
so
gonna show you
go
how to
there.
do that. So we go here, and then we want to choose a list. So if you create a bunch of lists and you know this is coming specifically from contacts you have in New York or New York City or whatever it may be, you just go click here, check this box, select. Um, do you want to explain this real quick, what this all means?
Yeah, just real quick, on the very far left is the most important one. Those are the fields, the column names. That's all that the column names that are needed. And this is just an example so that you have in the right formatting. These are for more of our programming things. It's letting you know that the format should be a number regex. That is a number formatting style for programming and all that sort of stuff. A lot of things do that by default. So this is just information for you to know what your column should look like. We already went over that really. So your numbers that you're going to put in there, follow the format that we did where there's the plus one. That's the raw form. I suggest you use the raw form. Plus one, area code, 7 digits. Does that make sense? So you have a whole 10-digit number. That is the best way to do it. The Air reads that natively. So I suggest you do that. So you have no problems with understanding phone numbers within there.
Right, and that's the sole purpose, so it can actually make the phone call to the proper number.
Correct.
So next here. All right. So do it the hard way. You can drag and drop it. I'm just searching my computer right now. Go get it. It's this one. So there you go. Says
Yeah, it's
there's
going to give you a few examples of what it's going to look like. Then you just hit next step, or you can, if you don't
keep
like it, upload a different one. So fix it and then upload a different one. That's what you would do from here.
right. So if you don't like it here, whatever you upload here will replace what you already uploaded, basically.
Correct.
All right. And you want to kind of explain this section here, Paul?
Yeah, so when it says choose columns, notice that, and I want you guys to take note of notice it takes our headers. Remember we did that formatting for contact underscore ID. We did that for that reason, so that it could be referenced and it is referenced properly. So column now phone number is required, right? All the other fields are not, because obviously there's heavily suggested, but the first three are going to be make sure they're mapped properly. This one, you can choose to either skip this, but by choosing nothing, it's going to maintain this column within the data set. So we're not going to skip this.
Right.
We're going to keep the ID in there just because we want it to pass through, and it might be something that we use going down the line. Actually,
Well,
yeah, we might use it.
yeah, like for example, like contact ID, if you're like in the mortgage business and you have a loan number, or there's a file
Mm-hmm.
number if you're in the insurance business or whatever,
Right.
and you need the
Policy
air
number or something,
policy
right.
number, right, and you need the air agent say, hey, John Smith, I
Right.
got your policy number as XYZ, blah blah blah. Is that the correct policy number that we have on file? And you could do some extra verification there as well. So that's one
Right.
way you can kind of do it, to give you an example. And the way you would do that is put the squiggly line and then put the contact underscore
Yeah.
ID or whatever that name is, so the air agent understands to read that off accordingly under that
Yeah.
contact that it's
And
calling.
those squiggly lines that he's referring to are actually the curly brackets on your
Curly
keyboard.
brackets. Okay.
Yeah, so double curly brackets for
Okay.
them. And then first name looks okay. That's right. Business name looks good. So Air is only looking for four main things right now. They might expand it later on, but there's actually no need to really expand it for
So
when they make the calls. Go ahead.
another cool feature that we kind of added is last activity. So if you want to do like a follow-up agent, hey, say we last spoke on XYZ, and you can kind of have the last contact or last activity dates to kind of have the agent reference that if there's like a follow-up agent that you create.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, that's a good thing to do. Uh-huh. All right, and then we can just go next. All the columns look good. We didn't have to change any mapping, so it mapped it properly because we gave it the right headers anyway.
yep, this is what you want basically.
Yep.
All
And
rows
so
are valid.
basically, just so how you read this, guys, is it's showing, it says only show rows with errors. There are no errors showing up. There's no rows with any errors. But if you did, then you'd have to fix those. But it's showing all rows are valid, so we're good. All right.
And there you go.
And close that.
There they all
And
are.
now they're all imported. So now the first status that it gives it is a new lead. And as we go through, that status is obviously going to change on that contact to like follow up or booked appointment and all those different statuses. And the air agent will change that up. But as you can see, again, this is dummy information though here. Like those aren't real
Right.
phone numbers, obviously, you know. We did this for demonstration so that you can see what it's doing. Obviously, when we make our campaign, we're going to be using real information. So uh, that's that. But if you notice, if you go under your list now, Tom, now you got 20 contacts under list.
On the New York list, right?
Yep. So now this list is segmented, and now you would choose this list for your campaign. And so that's how it works. It goes from contacts to lists, and then you choose a list, and which is essentially a dial list for your campaign. So that's how I always view these as this is the New York dial list.
And is it good to note too that Air's UI is pretty intuitive, so if you're uploading a contact that's already in there, it's not going to. Because I think
Correct.
we tried that.
Yeah,
We had the same number as 5555555, all 20 of them, and it only uploaded one. Because even though the names
yeah.
are different, the business names are different, emails are different, but the phone number was the
The phone
same,
number is the same,
it
right?
just uploaded one. So if you do accidentally upload the same contact, it's not going to basically. So
Correct. So that's really good to know. So like because what it's doing to be unique is it's referencing a phone number. So the phone number has to be unique.
right.
Everything else could be duplicated, right? It
Yep.
could be the same email, could be different, same name,
And Air
right?
does a good job making sure it's by the phone number because it's making phone calls and it keeps Air's software compliant basically because you can only call one number a certain amount of times per day. So if you
Correct.
have the same number uploaded twice with the two different contacts, it could end up reaching, it could overextend itself and cause some FCC regulation violations there. So that's why they make sure that, you know, it's not uploading the same contact twice because it could, in fact, overextend itself and call that contact more than the allocated amount that the FCC regulates on. So,
Yeah, essentially it'd be like if you had it in there, it would be double, right? If you
right.
had that number in there double and triple and quadruple, and you'd have
Yeah.
some real problems and
Yep.
explaining to do for sure. It's
It's
like,
not
how
fun.
did you call this person this many times in a day? And that
Yeah.
person on the other end, oh my goodness, that's the quickest way to get your number spammed out and messed up, and it halts your whole campaign.
Yep.
So you don't want to be
And
making those type of mistakes.
and if you contact the wrong person, you could have a sheriff be serving you some paperwork there at your office.
Right.
So just be careful on that. So that's why you don't want to call, you don't want to put duplicate contacts with the same number, but Air prevents that from happening. Just keep in mind though, when you're doing it, there is a way to do reach out of your own CRM. So we'll show that later, but you want to be careful on that you don't have the same number for multiple contacts because if you have the same number for 10 contacts, it could potentially, you know, reach out to that person 30 times a day because I think the max for most states is three. You can't call somebody more than 3 times a day. Obviously, that can go beyond that if you actually have a booked appointment or a scheduled time with them, or and whatnot. But the max you can reach out to someone before contact is 3 times a day. That's the max, basically. So.
Right, right. Well, good. So yeah, so that's how you get your contacts into the Air platform. And so now you're all set to start a campaign from this standpoint.
Yep. Next, we'll go over is hopefully the campaign. If there's something that comes up that we need to show you before that, well, that's probably the next thing we'll end up doing. But hopefully, the next one we end up showing you here is actually launching a campaign.
All right, sounds good. Well, let's do it.
All right, later, guys.
All right, bye.